morning. My name is Lance Kinney. I'm the Executive Director for the Texas Board of Professional Engineers, and I'll go ahead and get started with the TBPE CICCP International Professional Engineering Licensure Model, Texas and Spain joint presentation. This first portion I'll be presenting for the Texas Board, and then after that we will hand over to my partner in Spain, and he'll give the second half based on the Spanish licensure process. My name is Lance Kinney. I'm the Executive Director for the Board, and for CICCP we have Jose Francisco Saez on the other side, so he'll be doing the second part of the presentation. A quick summary about what the presentation is for. It'll describe the current licensure process for professional engineers in each jurisdiction. Main point here is it's the current process. We are currently in discussions on how we might be able to improve the process between the two, between Texas and Spain, but this is the current process as it stands. The intended audience is Spanish engineers interested in licensure in Texas, and American engineers, specifically Texas engineers, interested in licensure in Spain. Again, this is me, and there's my email address. Some webinar information. The webinar is speaker only. We'll be talking, and you'll be able to listen. Questions can be done through the widget on the side. PDFs of the slides for the presentations, both in English and Spanish, are available on our website, engineers.texas.gov. Specifically, this presentation itself from TBPE is available in both English and Spanish, and the PDF of the Spanish presentation from Spain is available in English on our website. So go there if you'd like to download it or follow along. The agenda will briefly cover the overview of the Texas Board of Professional Engineers, who we are, what we do, reasons to become licensed in Texas, the licensure process in Texas, and then PSPA, the Professional Services Procurement Act, some information about procurement for engineering projects in Texas. Brief history of the Board of Engineers. We were created in 1937 by the Texas Legislature, and they established the board to regulate the practice of engineering through licensing engineers, the rule of practice, and enforcement. Looks like we're a little behind on the slides. Let it catch up. There we go. So once again, we were created to regulate the practice of engineering for licensing engineers, the rules of practice, and enforcement of those rules. The framework that we work in is, on one side there's the Texas governor, who appoints our board members, and then the Texas legislature, which creates and regulates the Texas Engineering Practice Act. Those two things together are the guidance that we get here at the Board of Engineers. That's TBPE. And then at the bottom, of course, our mission is licensed professional engineers and enforce the Texas Engineering Practice Act. The board itself is a state agency, and so we are a governmental entity that regulates the practice, but there are other organizations involved in different aspects of professional engineering in the state, and this is similar in other states in the United States. The first is ABET, the Accreditation Board for Engineering and Technology. They are the ones who evaluate university programs for quality and applicability for licensure. So you'll see in later slides, or if you do apply at some point, ABET accreditation is what it's referred to, and that means a university that a graduate is qualified for licensure and other things. ASCE is the American Society of Civil Engineers. In the United States, there are regulatory bodies through the government, which like our board, but there are also associations or organizations that have to do with technical aspects of engineering, in this case, civil engineering. There's also equivalents for mechanical, electrical, etc., but this is an organization that people can join. It's not mandated, but they can join for issues related to civil engineering. NCEES is the National Council of Examiners for Engineering and Surveying. They develop the examinations. This is a key part of the licensure process in all the states, and Texas uses their examinations also, so they're national exams, but the licensure process is by state. So you'll see NCEES mentioned later on. NSPE is the National Society of Professional Engineers, and similar to ASCE, they're a society that engineers can join. This group's different, and it's not so much focused on technical aspects of a certain branch of engineering, but it's related to professional engineering matters on a larger scale. This would be things having to do with legislature, having to do with governmental interaction, and generally promotion of the profession as a whole, so education and other stuff. There are state versions of the NSPE chapters. For example, the Texas version is TSPE, and we work very closely with TSPE on legislative issues in the state of Texas and things like the Engineering Practice Act and whatnot. So These are different organizations. You'll hear us mention them, and they're related to the engineering practice. But back to the Board of Engineers. Specifically, we have 9 members, all appointed by the governor. 6 are licensed PEs. They represent different branches of engineering in different geographical areas of the state. There are also 3 public members. These are not engineers. They are folks that kind of are the voice of the public as it relates to engineering, and together they work to make engineering better across the state. The standard term is they serve for 6 years and it rotates through. Here's the list of our board members. Dr. Wong is the chairman out of Houston, and as you'll see, there are various members from different parts of the state. Our staff, we only list this here. This is not everybody. This is just the directors who are here presenting and also assisting. But there are 31 staff members here in Austin. We only have 1 office here in Austin, and we do all of our regulation and licensure out of that one place. So, reasons to become a licensed engineer in Texas. The first one is we serve as the protection of the public health, safety, and welfare. That's the key driver for everything we do, and we make sure that everyone's qualified and able to do engineering safely in the state of Texas. Having a license also shows you've accomplished a recognized standard, that you've achieved above and beyond just simply graduating, but now you've met other criteria to be a professional engineer. It makes you equal with other professionals. Many other professions require that you're licensed to practice. Doctors, lawyers, teachers, things like that, and engineers are the same, so it makes you equal with those other licensed professionals. It is the law in only licensed engineers can offer services to the general public. So if you're doing engineering and you're offering it through a company or through your sign out there, then you'll need to be a PE. It's required for some positions. In some specific cases, they want a professional engineer, and so you'll need to keep that an eye out for that when you're applying for jobs or doing certain work. So Public Works is a great example of that. That's working for the public as listed above, and on public projects they often want a professional engineer. And this mostly occurs in civil engineering. You'll see a graph here in a little bit that points out that a predominance of the engineers licensed in Texas are civil engineers. Licensure in the U.S. is required in each state. What I mean by that is we do not have national licensure. The requirements for each state are similar, and I'll show you the flow here in a minute. But essentially, if you were licensed in Texas, it does not guarantee that you'll be licensed in any other state. You'd have to go to each state and apply. The good news is once you've met the criteria, for the most part, it's simply a matter of filling out paperwork and slight modifications to the general process flow. It is a portable credential that you keep throughout your career. So if you do CPC, continuing professional competency, or continuing education, you can keep the credential here and it will travel with you wherever you go. Here's the graph I was talking about. As you can see, the largest block of engineers that are licensed in the state are civil engineers, and I think a map like this is pretty standard across most states. So the requirements for licensure, and just to let you know, this is a high-level overview. These are the basic requirements: education, experience, and examinations. If you have those 3 E's, that's the key to licensure there. The standard flow, and this means the most common way through the path, is a 4-year degree. The FE exam will be taken at graduation or very near graduation time. The work experience would then be gained. You'd go out and gain practical experience in a work environment. After you've completed all that work experience requirement, then you would apply for licensure and permission to take the PE, which is the 2nd level exam. Then once you've taken it and passed it, you'll be issued your PE license. There are, of course, modifications to this flow, but this is the standard flow, I think, for most places, and definitely in Texas. So the education block. Here's that ABET accreditation that I mentioned. If you have an engineering degree that is ABET accredited, you can look it up on abet.org. This is most of the programs in the United States, but ABET has started accrediting individual programs outside of the United States in different countries. They can accredit bachelor's degrees, which is mostly what they do, but they also have some master's degrees accredited. So if you're wondering if your program is ABET accredited, go there and take a look. Like I said, it's most United States degrees and some in other countries. Non-EAC ABET programs are the ones that don't fit that first category. So these engineering degrees that are not ABET accredited, also technology degrees and related science degrees. So that's, in Texas, we consider all those as licensable. Some states may not have the same requirements. So we do have that non-ABET category. And then foreign degrees, these are ones earned abroad or overseas. They may be acceptable, but we'll have to have a degree evaluation. This means there's third-party organizations that look at certain national criteria and compare your degree from another country to these standards. So they can be acceptable, foreign degrees can be acceptable if they were under the Washington Accord. If you can go to washingtonaccord.org to see if your country is on the list. It's my understanding Spain is not currently a signatory to the Washington Accord, so that may not apply depending, but I never know where anybody's particular degree is from. So if you've gained it from a Washington Accord signatory country, then we can accept it as ABET equivalent. If it was deemed equivalent to a U.S. degree through one of these companies, so I mentioned that there's these third-party organizations, including NCEES, that will look at your degree. You can go to that link there, and it lists the places that we use here in Texas, and you would then send your transcript directly from the university to them. They would evaluate it for a fee and see if it's ABET equivalent. If it's not ABET equivalent but still eligible for licensure, they'd let us know that too. There's two special cases. One is since Texas has an agreement with Mexico and Canada, then degrees from Mexico and Canada that are accredited or reviewed out of there would also count. So if you happen to have a degree from one of those places, that would count too. But so the main thing there is take a look at Washington Accord, ABET, and then look at the evaluations. The next leg was experience. Basically, if you have that ABET level degree, or if you have a degree that's been reviewed and ABET equivalent, you need 4 years of engineering work to become licensed in Texas. If you're in one of the other categories, a non-ABET, a technology degree, like a physics or a chemistry degree, then you would need 8 years of experience. Experience credit for advanced degrees from ABET accredited programs. We have some specific things that will give you credit for a master's or a PhD that will cut down the amount of experience required. And foreign engineering experience may be acceptable. People often ask, well, I worked in another country or I gained all my experience abroad. Will that count in the United States or in Texas? And the answer is yes, it will, with some conditions. It must meet all the rule requirements for qualifying of our experience. In our instructions and in our rules, we have certain things that do count, such as design, analysis, and other engineering tasks. So it needs to be that kind of experience. Simply working in an engineering office and not doing engineering would not, for example, count. So it needs to be something related to the practice of engineering. At least 2 years of the total amount of experience must be obtained in the U.S. or working with U.S. codes and standards. So we need at least 2 years where you've been working in the United States, or if you worked abroad, you may work for a U.S. company or a U.S. affiliated company, or possibly even do design in a place that uses standards that are international that the U.S. also uses, or at least that you can demonstrate familiarity with U.S. codes and practices. So that one, you would actually write something up and send it in with your application to explain how and why you met this criteria. There are many international companies that use standards across different countries, and there are also a lot of standards that are adopted in different places that are similar to U.S. codes. So that's something that you do have to keep in mind. You will have to have all your experience supported by professional references, and I'll talk about that in just a second. Most of these should be from the U.S., but occasionally you can use an engineer from another country also to provide a reference. The third E that was listed before is examinations. In the United States and in Texas, you have to pass 2 different tests. They are national tests. The first one is called the Fundamentals of Engineering exam, which is abbreviated to the FE. It's after the university, and they are broad engineering topics. So you may call it, it's more basic engineering, but it's shorter questions, but it's quite across the board on the topics there. The second level exam, this is after you've completed your experience, is the Principles and Practice, which is abbreviated to the PE exam. This is after you've gained your experience, so it's more about the practice, things you've learned on the job and things that apply to the real world. It's specific to your area of engineering practice, so this would be a civil engineering exam, an electrical engineering exam, tailored to what you do every day. Once you pass both of those exams, then you become licensed, and they are administered by NCEES. So Texas doesn't develop them specifically, and we don't deliver them, but we do require that you do them. The FE exam is now offered via computer-based testing, so you can take it anywhere in the United States. And in fact, there are some locations around the world. I'm not familiar with any of them right now in Spain, but I do know that the company that helps give the exams, Pearson VUE, does have locations in Spain. So ultimately, that may be part of a discussion that we have with CICCP and with NCEES to see if they can possibly be available at some point. But right now, you have to do the FE, and it's on computer, and the Principles and Practice is a paper and pencil examination. So those are the 3 E's. There's some specific things to the application itself. The supplementary experience record is how you write up your experience. I think I'll talk about it in a second, but it's not a long, well, it's not a short thing. You don't just write down a couple phrases. We want to hear about all the different things you've done, the things you've designed, analyzed, and other engineering deals. You will need references. At least 3 of them need to be PEs or licensed engineers in whatever country you're from. We do an ethics evaluation, which is a short online rules test discussing the rules specific to Texas regarding practice and ethics. We do require a criminal history record check. This is a fingerprint background check through the FBI here in the United States. You can do it electronically if you're in Texas, or you have to send in a paper card with fingerprints on that. And then, of course, there's a fee for our application process. The criminal history record check is something that started pretty recently in 2013, 2014. There are very specific instructions. You can check those out at the link listed here. When you apply, you have to have this done beforehand. It can take a little while, so I recommend taking a look at that. It runs in parallel with the application, but it must be completed beforehand. And what we're looking for here is things related to engineering that may indicate there could be some problem in the future. So do not hesitate in case you have something that has happened here in the past that won't stop you necessarily from being licensed, but we do want to know if there's anybody who poses a risk, and we need to deal with that. The SER, the Supplementary Experience Record, is something that you would fill out. It's a detailed description of your engineering work. It's like a project diary. Once again, the experience can be gained in Texas, in other states in the United States, or overseas. So if you were coming here to be licensed, but say you first stopped in Kentucky and did work there, that would be the kind of work that could count too. You could also have done almost all of your work, for example, in Spain, meeting those other requirements with codes and whatnot, but you'd write it all up and we would review that here. Internships and co-ops, basically working during education, can count if they're longer than 3 months. The references, this is something that people spend some time trying to get this done, and this is looking for professionals who will vouch and support your application. Basically stand in for you and discuss your technical capabilities and your professional ethics and your practice. We need at least 3 of those, 1 per job, and by job I don't mean task or project, it's more like by employment. So if you worked at 3 companies, you need 1 for each. If you worked at 1 company, you need all 3 from the same one. You need to cover your minimum amount of experience and write about that from personal knowledge or review. They'll fill out a form. It's confidential, so they fill it out and send it directly to us. You don't get to see what they say. That's to encourage their honesty and clarity in what they're recommending, because at the end of the process, they're the ones that will be able to say, yes, I know him or her, and he or she is ready for licensure. They can be licensed in any state. Some references may be licensed in other countries. So in this case, if we need 3, we'll accept 1 from abroad, and we'll still need 2 U.S. references. International temporary licensure. This is a very specific type of application that we have that's related to licensing agreements we have with certain countries. Currently, we have Australia, Canada, and Mexico. We're in the process of working with Korea on the same type of thing, and we're beginning discussions with CSECP potentially on having something like this from Spain. So it's not in place, but we did want to let you know they exist. They're negotiated and signed agreements, very specific between our countries. They lay out if there's any modification to education and experience requirements, and generally the examinations are not required for this temporary license. It has a short-term license. It has full practice capabilities, but it's only good for a maximum of 3 years, and you still have to do continuing professional competency stuff for that. So this one, I just want to let everybody know it's something that's out there, but currently we do not have that agreement with Spain at this moment. So that's the general application process. One of the last things we were asked to discuss a little bit about was procurement. Unlike some other organizations and possibly even CICCP, we're not involved in, I guess, procurement, purchasing, or any other kind of professional practice. We deal with the licensure and the enforcement of the practice itself, but not the business world side. But there are laws in Texas related to procurement, and one specific one is the Professional Services Procurement Act, or PSPA. It revolves around a concept called qualifications-based selection, or QBS, and it's specific to public projects. This doesn't mean just a project that's accessible to the public, but it's one that's publicly funded. So it's for a city, for the state of Texas, for some state organization, for counties, for any other political subdivision where tax money might be involved. This is the selection that has to be used. It the concept is you submit your qualifications to do a project first, then you're selected on your capabilities, the team you put together and the knowledge everybody has and your resources. Once they've determined that you're capable and competent to do it, then you can start talking about the price. It's a little bit different than just going for the lowest bidder. The idea is that the public is getting the best value and highly qualified engineers to do the job. So there are responsibilities in the PSPA for professional engineers. This regards about how to submit and what information you can provide and what you can't. And there's information in the PSPA about the responsibilities for the public officials who are asking for qualifications. Specifically, they can't ask you for your qualifications and your price. They just have to ask for your qualifications up front. They select the most capable people, and then they get into the price negotiations. So that's just something to consider if you or your company are considering doing work in Texas on public projects. In support of that, we have put together a brochure. It does not have everything in the world related to PSPA in it, but it does have a basic guideline. These are all available on our website at engineers.texas.gov. But this one is what is the Professional Services Procurement Act, and it's got a very simple basic flow in it regarding selection and then the development of the contract. In addition, we've got some other brochures here. One is when is a professional engineer required on a project, and this flow chart, I'm not going to go through the details, but it basically lays out on a project what needed. So if you're wondering whether or not you need to get licensed in Texas to do the work that you're looking to do, this might help with that information and some guidance once you do get licensed. While we're talking about publications, we have two others that are relevant. One is how to become a licensed professional engineer. It's a short synopsis similar to today's presentation that will give you the basic outlines for licensure. And another one called Benefits of Being a Professional Engineer, which discusses reasons why you might consider going ahead and getting licensed in the state of Texas. This is the website, engineers.texas.gov, where everything's at. Our application is there. Information about the webinar, where you can download these PDFs are there. Those brochures I just talked about are there. Pretty much anything you need to know is on that website. So go there, mark it down, and you can contact us or anything through that website. We also have some social media things. We have Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and some other items that we're starting to populate more, YouTube and whatnot. So follow us on Facebook, Twitter if you want, and we post periodically but not all the time, just to keep you up to date on what is going on here at the board. And with that, that concludes my portion of the presentation. So I want to thank you all very much. In a minute, I'll hand it over to Jose at CICCP, but feel free to contact us with questions you might have at that email address or at mine earlier in the presentation, or go to our website at engineers.texas.gov. And with that, I'll thank you very much.